is Sustainable Development Goals, and I want to highlight 3, which guides us in all this. It is making sure that everyone is well and healthy, nobody is left behind. The other one is NDP3. I can't even add on more. It has been well elaborated. And the National Health Policy emphasizes rehabilitative health care. Next, I want to share with you some of the health sector specific program achievements, but I will lastly talk about the challenges. 1, we have established regional orthopedic workshops in most of our regional referral hospitals. These are able to fabricate assistive devices. My question, I want to preempt, don't ask me, are they doing very well? Okay, it is a challenge. So I've already, but I am proposing a solution. The other time we were with Honorable Ndezi in the Disability Council meeting, and he knows what I'm going to say. There are now more MPs in the room. A well-equipped optical workshop was established in Entebbe in partnership with Light for the World. And we trained over 80 mid-level eye workers as refractionists. There is a robust courier method to take spectacles to wherever you are, whether you are in Moroto or Chisoro. Maximum number of days it takes is 3 days. Our health workers, refractionists, are able to take a diagnosis when they assess you. They send a message, you don't need to come to Entebbe, and then the spectacles are put on bus, and you receive them. You only need to pay some little money. I'm saying little, 50,000 may sound a lot, but you can imagine how much would you spend if you had come from Chisoro or Moroto or Arua. But the other thing is that because it is highly subsidized by Light for the World, some of you won't spend more than 1 million shillings. The government and partners have put a system. They are there. Several rehab health workers are engaged in various hospitals and health centers, but they are not enough. The Disability and Rehabilitation Division, in partnership with the National Bureau of Standards, developed standards for wheelchairs. They are guiding importation of wheelchairs. Several health training institutions for these rehab workers, quite a number, were put in place, and eventually they were handed over as per the policy to Ministry of Education and Sports. But I want to say more have also been put in place, like optometry school. These are very good experts on eye care. Next. All regional and other general hospitals have mental health departments, and these are offering those services, including our occupational therapists and the psychiatrists. They are trained to various levels of training. The Mental Health Act 3 years ago was passed, and it is guiding the legal framework and implementation. Bravo to the Parliament by then. Uganda expanded the program on immunization. After a lot of advocacy from some of you, the partners, we were able now to include rubella. And I've already told you rubella is one of the major causes of disabilities: heart, visual, and hearing. So it is now part of the immunization. Now, it disappoints when you hear that we are not achieving even 100% of the immunization. We want to have the disabilities. How do we prevent them? But I also want to say vitamin A is very good at preventing blindness, and we are doing very well there. Advocacy with stakeholders and the goodwill of the ministry led to inclusion of adjustable beds for women with disabilities in the hospital equipment policy, and they are now being procured. We need to continue putting pressure on the hospitals. You know, now regional hospitals are autonomous in budgeting, so that when they are buying equipment, these beds are there. They are already there, by the way, in some of them. So when you visit, please. The National TB and Leprosy Program proactively looks for and manages disability arising from leprosy. The same with elephantiasis. The NTD program does that. Under clinical management, our different regional hospitals are able to offer plastic surgery, ear, nose, and throat, cataract surgeries, and other blinding diseases like diabetic retinopathy, that is a blinding condition arising from mismanaged diabetes, and glaucoma, which is increased pressure of the eye. But also in orthopedics. But of course, I've already told you orthopedics is challenged by a number of factors. But the departments are there. Next. Through collaboration We have different memorandum of understanding with highly specialized hospitals, including Kosu, Chua, Mengo, Benedictine, and Roharo Eye Centers, and a lot of highly specialized surgeries take place there. One of the challenges we have is the referral system. I want, on a good note, to say that government has also just recently commissioned a highly specialized children's hospital to manage various disabilities in Entebbe, and another one is under construction in Ruboa. In partnership with UNICEF, our division is actually undertaking implementing intervention for disability in early childhood project, in about 6 districts, and we are trying to learn the experiences through monitoring. We shall scale up. This includes early screening and referral. And again, where do we refer? Regional hospitals, including the other private ones. That is Kosu and Chua, when we get the children like those with hydrocephalus, and etc. There is a process of establishing a national advisory committee on assistive technology. We are doing this in partnership with WHO, UNICEF, and very many of you, the partners who are here. The draft terms of reference are almost in advanced stage. We think this is going to guide assistive technology. Screen creams for albinos have been put on the essential drug list. This is the power of advocacy. Sense International, I've already talked about it. It has initiated good programs in collaboration with us, and the best examples before, it was disrupted a bit because Entebbe Hospital, which has a highly organized rehabilitative unit for deaf-blind, but because of COVID, it was a little bit. But we are still doing it in some other areas. Next. Major challenges and some recommendations. The other recommendations will come from you, is that both the orthopedic and optical workshops need a continuous supply of raw materials in order to fabricate these devices. But currently, these are not always available. Some are never available. This makes devices very expensive and not accessible to those who need them. And those who need them are persons with disabilities. We would prefer, and all of you have a role to play here, if I only downplay it to members of parliament who are here, because some of you are advocates, but every one of you are here, that we get a protected and conditioned grant for these hospitals, for the orthopedic and optical workshops, in an affirmative action, as an affirmative action towards disability. This would enable easy access to these devices. If we don't, we shall be talking, the devices will not be there, and then rehabilitative healthcare will remain limited. Inadequate service providers, most of the conditions I've talked about, the invisible disabilities, including those which are obviously visible. We need rehab workers, we need to train more. So affirmative action in scholarships has been there, we need to maintain it. Partners who are here, give us more money to train more. Referral mechanisms are very important. We need to strengthen them so that when we send these people to the places of super specialized management and treatment, they are able to go. There is sometimes the fear of distance, the barrier of costs, and the fear of the unknown. Gross underfunding across board. When I say across board, it means right from the lower levels up to the highest level. It doesn't need to be re-emphasized. My sister from NDP3 talked about the Gender and Equity Certificate, and Equal Opportunities Commission also does that. But I think one of my colleagues in the morning talked about this checklist needs to be scrutinized further. Dr. Pamela, you talked about it. There is equity, tick, yeah. The sector has passed. I rest my case on that. Then inadequate, the data, we have talked about that. And lastly, last slide, award default. Thank you.
Dr. Stanley, that was on spot. Can we clap for Dr. Stanley once again? Beautiful job so far done. We want to apologize and say that our next symposium, perhaps next year, it will be 3 days, because the things to talk about are so many and so important, and that we cannot fully exhaust them in the time allotted to us. So I know Honorable Days will start mobilizing for the resources. Honorable Aurora, Haji, so that by that time we have adequate money. And if we decide to run out of Kampala and we go to another city, so be it, and we discuss these issues exhaustively. Now, so far, I've also been speaking, but don't count me among the speakers. I'm just there, a biological substance, to coordinate these things. But we had Honorable Alex Indezi, the chair for the caucus. We had Dr. Patrick Ojok. We had Mr. Muhumuza Prosper. We had Dr. Pamela Ninzeimana. We had Mrs. Judith Mutabazi. And we have had Dr. Stanley Mubikire. Of course, the two ministers spoke as well, but they are not here. So as you ask the question, and can I have my team to start moving the mic? We have exactly 10 minutes within which to do. And I also have questions online. So let me start with the online. Yes, the online, they have been sending their questions. Let me hear from Commissioner who has been capturing them. Then my team, prepare your microphones to move around. There are already hands around this corner.
Thank you, Commissioner Mondo. They were picked by William. I'll try to read, but most of them really are appreciating the presenters and saying we need more and more of this information. One of them called Ashley Hall, commenting on Pamela. Good job, Dr. Pamela. I love your passion. Thank you so much. There are many of these, so I want to repeat them. Dr. Jock, Isaac, nice presentation. I need a copy of your presentation. I want to know if there is representation of people with disabilities on the Health Service Commission, Judicial Service Commission, District Service Commission, Education Service Commission, and what are their roles on those commissions?
Yes, he has been here for some time.
Another one is, I want to know the assessment of accessibility to social protection, especially the special grant in the sub-regions of Bukedia, Sebei, and Bugisu.
Special grant on what? For the elderly?
Disability, medium, accord.
That one, Commissioner Prosper will answer.
Claire, we at Hill Primary School would like to engage further on implementing invisible disability inclusion with you. Thank you so much, Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development and other partners.
You're welcome.
The discussion on legal aid is good. The recommendations for capacity building are spot on. On access, there is a need to emphasize sign language communication and the conduct of police towards persons and suspects with disability.
Mr. Aaron, take a note of that one.
Do we have persons with disabilities represented at National Planning Authority, either in management or at the board level?
Judith will respond to that one.
The rest are really compliments. All the presenters have been commended for a job well done. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you very much, my online colleagues. Thank you for being active and for asking those questions. My team will be responding, led by Honorable Ndez. Can I have, yes, physical now? There's a hand here. Who is moving the mic? Oh, good. The mic is there. I'm leaving it behind. You have this one also?
Thank you so much. I don't think I introduced myself. My name is Dorothy Kisarale. I'm here both as a programmer, but also as a mother raising a biological child with cerebral palsy. I like Dr. Stanley's presentation about cerebral palsy and other invisible, he called them. I'd like to differ from him and call them neurological disabilities. My question today is, the Honorable Minister talked about the asked or also informed us about the EMIOGA. I happen to also run an NGO called the Harvey Cerebral Palsy Foundation. And most of the times my mothers, who I love when I'm with them to call myself a peer mentor mother, because I am also one, like I mentioned, have asked me about the EMIOGA funds. But unfortunately for us, who are mothering or raising these children biologically, cannot access these funds. How or what are the plans or arrangements that are for us who are not physically disabled, as you can see, but are raising physically or neurologically disabled children? Thank you.
Thank you so much, the presenters. My question goes to Dr. Bovichile. First of all, I would like to re-echo that as he was presenting about spina bifida, he mentioned about folic acid. Ladies and gentlemen, spina bifida happens in the first 28 days after the mother has conceived, and this is a neurotube defect or malformation. So all women of childbearing age, you ought to take folic acid as you plan to get pregnant. Dr. Bubichle, I understand that the Ministry of Health under the Department of Nutrition had a program of rolling out folic acid to all menstruating girls. Could you please update us on the program? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Mine is a comment. I'm Dr. Busula Abdul, a lecturer in Chambogo University. I'm making a comment on Dr. Patrick Ojoku's presentation around, I was wondering why the quota mandate or quota system has not been implemented yet. And I would want to comment that this quota system, when you dig deep into history, it was presumed that people with disabilities would do specific jobs in specific areas. So there was some bit of ring fencing for them in those particular areas. That's how it came to be part of the advocacy for employment for disabilities, especially in the 60s and 70s. So my comment is that this is almost very hard to implement now because people with disabilities have moved on from doing specific things. They are doing almost everything that others do. And what we should advocate for is to give a role to the focal point persons to identify jobs that are vacant and highlight them for filling by as many people as possible, including people with disabilities. Secondly, government should start a program of vocational rehabilitation whereby people who finish their education in tertiary institutions are given those skills that can help them to write application, to write their CVs, and to answer interview questions relevantly so that they are able to access some of the government jobs that they are not accessing today. Probably that will be the role of the bureaus. I don't know whether they are still there in government, the employment bureaus, and any other recruiting agencies like Public Service Commission, and all those other service commissions like Education Service Commission, Health Service Commission, Judicial Service Commission. Just imagine we have just gotten one lawyer admitted to be a magistrate. Can you imagine all these years? And yet there are so many lawyers with visual impairment who can be admitted. That's my comment. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is Mrondo Hassan from National Council for Persons with a Disability. I acknowledge the presentation from Dr. Stanley. Dr. Stanley, thank you so much for the law you have done to include sunscreen on the list of essential drugs. Then, the gap lies on its availability. You know, when you read the Persons with the Disabilities Act, Section 7, subsection 7, it states that the government will subsidize those sunscreens or will make them available at no cost. So that is the only gap remaining. Then the last one to doctor, scaling up of skin doctors or dermatology doctors for recommendation on how to apply those sunscreens is still missing. So when you go back to your area, make sure that at least this one is brought up very well.
Okay. Can I have two last ones? Then I will have my team to come and respond. Okay, take all the three in that island.
Okay, thank you. I am Okea John, the district chairperson of Tororo, and a person with disability. I would like to thank Dr. Stanley for the presentation. It was wonderful. But my concern is that during those days, we would all go to hospitals, you are assessed, and you would get the assistive devices. Talk about the wheelchairs, the crutches, and so on. But these days, those services are not there. We used to get this through regional referral hospitals and even district referral hospitals. So maybe I would like to hear from Minister of Health why we no longer get assistive devices from government through the hospitals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman Tororo. Why? What has changed?
And thank you, presenters. I want to thank Dr. Pamela and Dr. Stanley for the presentations. My name is Henry from Albinizim Umbrella. And my question is, especially in education, among the things Pamela recommended was teacher capacity development. But you realize that before a child goes to school, from the day of birth up to like 3 years maybe or more, there is an interaction of the parent and the health workers. And most of the health workers have no knowledge about these diseases. Is there a way of including on the curriculum of health workers for them to understand these disabilities right away from the nursing schools, medical schools, so that they are able to understand. I want to tell you a parent finds a lot of stigma from the day one of birth of a child. Be it any kind of disability. It can be albinism. The whole hospital can run around as if they have never studied that this is caused by genes. So is there a way so that especially these invisible disabilities, or even those that can be physically seen like albinism, be included on the curriculum, most especially for teachers and then for health workers, because they are the first-hand people.
Thank you very much.
Who should give comfort.
Point is taken. Yep.
Okay, thank you so much.
Early enough.
My name is Francis Mugwanya. I'm a member on the National Council for Persons with Disabilities. Just to quickly add on to my colleague's comment and appeal, there is a gap, an assessment and diagnosis gap that we face to start with. Before we even plan, before we budget, we need to diagnose, first of all, appropriately, and secondly, assess. Before education plans and all of that, there is need for assessment of our children. So when our experts are looking at this whole thing, that's where to start. Ministry of Health, diagnosis. Ministry of Education, assessments. Same as Ministry of Health as well, to know who needs the therapy and who doesn't. We have interacted with lots of parents. I go to a new district every month, personally. And the stories I get from there, especially for CP, parents comment and say, musawo yatugambye omwana twamuzaala akooye. Kitegeeza ki? You know, what is akooye? So we need, that's CP, like make it clear. Make it a diagnosis and explain to the parent what akooye means. Then the other comment I wanted to make on CP is, I didn't hear a challenge on inadequate medical care. I think for most of the parents I've interacted with, inadequate medical care is one of the major causes of cerebral palsy, or at least for the parents I've interacted with. The hospitals are too far, or the medical personnel are not trained to handle the parents when they come pregnant to deliver. So that needs to be highlighted as a challenge and also dealt with. And then lastly, I wanted to mention, first of all, to thank Dr. Stanley for adding the sunscreen. But the second one in line, I would appeal to be the catheters and the drugs used by our children and people with spinal bifida and spinal injuries. Those are lifeline for spinal injuries and spinal bifida. Catheters and the drugs that they use. Let that be next in line. If not now, at least immediately in the next financial year. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, get to that island. Oh,
yes.
God.
Thank you very much. I'm Alex Mwonge from Masaka, working with AD International, supported by Site Savers. You know, my mind has been tickling me to ask, I've been itching to ask this question.
You ask.
So my question goes that as the ministry or local or central government, what can you do to increase the level of employment by people with disabilities? Secondly, in his presentation, Dr. Ojok talked about accessibility, that the buildings are not accessible. But in the same presentation, talked about many employment opportunities being accessed by people with physical impairment. Don't you think that these people are finding it hard to access these premises, therefore facing hardships on their work? Just like Dr. Pamela said that there are a lot of challenges faced by children in schools.
Point taken.
Yes,
Thank you
and
very
then
much.
lastly,
Excuse me, now
you
let's
talked
ask
about the data. The
let's ask
data,
one
does
question.
it capture the invisible disabilities we are talking about?
Thank you very much. Could you kindly, if I have to make sure that I'm democratic, ask one question and be brief. Don't put a preamble. Don't thank us. They have been thanked already on your behalf. Just ask the question.
I'm by name Nawada Joy Florence, council member at National Council for Disability. I would like since we are talking about invisible disability, the little people, because I don't mean that we need sympathy, but we need to be recognized because there are many times we've gone to get the EMIOGA money or any other special grants given to disabled persons, and people are asking if we are really disabled, or because for them they are just seeing the height, and we have a challenge that most of our people are not recognized, like we are scattered in different regions. So getting like 50 people in Kampala, it's very difficult, but we need the government to recognize us, please.
Thank you very much. Prosper, take a note of that. And so will Honorable Ndezi.
Thank you very much, our moderator. My first comment is on Dr. Ojok. Hey.
William, why are you disturbing the lady? Please ask the question.
Okay. My first comment is on Dr. Ojok's presentation, where he said that a teacher, is it in capacity for a teacher to have 10 pupils or 10 students? Please, Dr. Ojok, when we were being trained in special needs education, they told us it is 5 to 1. That is learners with hearing impairment and visual impairment. Then these ones, these other disabilities, we are just learning them today, but now I'm talking about the formally recognized ones. Those with intellectual and perhaps intellectual moderate, it is 3 to 1, depending on their disability. Then severe, 1 to 1. That's where I think we have the deaf-blind child, and then is it severe autism, 1 to 1. But now, when you tell us that it is 10 to 1, I don't know when that was passed. And then 2, is there any way then they can increase the enrollment of teachers for special needs education so that they can get they can get efficient services? And then also, there is a need to educate the teachers on these other disabilities that we have just known today. Because we receive these children, and then at the end you just say, ono mwana ayina eddalu, daba kino ekyana ekisiru bwe kifuka mu ngoye. And yet the child has his own problem. So there is need to educate us further on the invisible disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think that's a very strong point. We need to educate people about this thing. Even knowing that in the first 28 days, the other spine defeater would have developed, and all the details. I think prevention still remains better than cure. One person there, then the final one is my colleague here from the district.
Yes, thank you very much, colleagues, for your submissions. My name is Okello Edwin, and I work with Refugee Law Project. And when we talk of invisible disabilities, I would like to go to the mental health aspect, depression. Dr. Pamela, are we thinking of this? Then many disabilities that are not understood and not recognized, like dyslexia, dysgraphia. Dr. Pamela, are we looking at this? Thank you very much. And how are we working to support these conditions? Thank you.
Thank you. Let me have the last gentleman there. Then you'll start with Dr. Ndezi, Dr. Honorable Professor Ndezi,
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Ojambo Joseph, the DCDO of Sironko District. I appreciate all the presentations, and they're all alluding to the issue of data. Data is an issue. And I'm also cognizant of the fact that we have very many livelihood programs targeting persons with disabilities from both the government and non-state actors. And at one time, we were mulling over the idea of having a central database where you would pick, for instance, if somebody is applying and you just enter his name, you'd know the various programs he has ever benefited from. Is it possible to have this addressed so that we would be talking with the figures, because figures don't lie? Because most cases, we have a problem of just firing so many because of that data issue. Thank you.
Thank you, my colleague. Can you sanitize and pass on the mic to Honorable Ndezi to start answering? Or if you wish, Honorable Ndezi, you can even take the...
It appears that I'm supposed to answer 3 questions. Are they 3 or 4? There are 3 or 4. One is the concern raised on behalf of little persons. Someone says that when they try to access a MIOGA and special grant, they are told you are not part of the community of people called people with disabilities. Second question relates to our membership in the District Service Commission. A third is on here. Sunscreen. I will partly answer it with Dr. Sandy. Maybe I should start by saying, please read the law relating to disability. Read the law and internalize it. Because some of these questions you are putting before me are clearly articulated and answered in our laws and regulations. Let us know that at our level, gathering here in Kampala, we should be the experts, we should be the consultants, the bishops, the cardinals, the reverends, who have all the answers on our fingertips. You, me, and you should have all these answers on our fingertips. And when it comes to interpretation of the law, you and me should be in the best position to interpret these laws. So now let me proceed to the specific questions. I am now reading from the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, 1995. This is one of the provisions I want to quote. I'm quoting. The state shall ensure gender balance and fair representation of marginal groups on all constitutional and other bodies. Now, in line with this constitutional obligation, Parliament amended the Local Government Act to provide for representation of disabilities in the District Service Commission. So your question was, are people with disabilities represented in the District Service Commission? The answer is yes, and it is in the Local Government Act. The member also wanted to know how this representation has benefited us in the disability movement. I want to say that our representative in the District Service Commission is lobbying for employment opportunities, lobbying for jobs. And we have examples of whereby our people have successfully managed to lobby for jobs for us using the structure of the District Service Commission. I don't have the data right now regarding how many jobs we have got, but representatives of the District Service Commission have done a commendable job. Therefore, I would request you at district level to try to identify who are these people representing us in the district so you can use them. Secondly, for little persons, now we have a government act. We have other laws on disability. I want to repeat, use these laws. Schedule 806 on categories of disability clearly is clearly written in black and white, saying little persons are part and parcel of the community of disabilities. If someone challenges you and says we cannot consider application under special grant, you cannot consider your application under IMUGA, go with the copy of that time, so black and white. Black and white. My friends, please, use the law. So once upon a time, we were disputing so many copies of this act. I hope you have enough copies. If you don't have enough copies, ministry and partners in the disability movement, I think our people need more copies of this law. So, little persons, my friends, I've answered your question. Use the law. The shared clear says little persons are part and parcel of the called disabilities. About 1 month ago, you called me for a function, but I failed to come because of other commitments. But I'm happy to answer your question today. Little persons. There was something from parents on children with disabilities asking how they can also benefit from MUGA and special grant. I want to say, under special grant program, we have already set a precedent. The words are in black and white. The guidelines are very clear. They say parents or caregivers can apply under special grant program. And the national special grant and the special grant. Parents can apply. Caregivers can apply. If you do not have the guidelines, please contact Prosper and his team. Share the guidelines so that in case you are challenged, you can tell people, look here the guidelines and agree. You say, new parents can apply. Okay, I have got some supplementary notes from my colleague, Olumpendo Madi. Thank you so much. Olumpendo Madi has informed me that Nudupu already carried out training of all our representatives in the District Service Commissions. They are trained in the roles, so they know what to do. Thank you, Olumpendo Madi. Chairperson Mudi. Okay. Have I answered?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Alex.
But as I mentioned, and I want to emphasize, please go and read the subject. Read what the Constitution says. When the resolution will come out, read very clearly in between the lines, because all the answers are captured in these documents. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Alex. After Honorable Alex, the second number of questions, largest number of questions, went to Dr. Stanley. Dr. Stanley Uwikire, Can you respond? Can you give him the mic? It's the other side. He's there.
Thank you very much, moderator. The terminology is noted by my sister. The question of folic acid. I've just had a telephone conversation with the Assistant Commissioner in charge of nutrition at the Ministry of Health, and she has assured me that they have done a pilot. You know, science many times rotates around pilots. They have done it in 21 districts, and they have found that indeed it works very well. She has told me to inform this meeting that they intend to roll out the next financial year to the entire country, to all the girls. Albinism, there were some encouraging words, and but they were also, like Oliver Twist, asking for more, okay? Which is okay. I think the issue of subsidizing or no cost at all is something which is more of an advocacy, because you know, sometimes some guidelines are written, but you find that they may be not in line with some others. So let's work together and see. At least they are on the essential list. Now how we operationalize it, please feel free. By the way, I'm not alone. I'm here with one of my senior officers, Dr. Ochorin here. You can stand up. So when I'm not in the office, somewhere, you can fire him. He's still fireable. Good age. The same, I think, with the dermatologists. I think it's more of an advocacy issue, but we are going to take it up with our health promotion and education department. I think we need to pass on messages, isn't it? I think Dr. Ocherin has noted that. The issue of assistive devices, I thought my presentation had come out clearly with the challenges. We have the factories, but the factories need inputs, isn't it? And the inputs, the challenges were continuous supply of raw materials, and then I said underfunding across board. And you remember my recommendation, my appeal rather, yes. Somebody called Henry from albinism. I think the issue of curriculum revision, Dr. Pamela, will you help me to answer that? We can work together. I think, you know, all these, like my presentation indicated, when you talk of a training institution, whether it is health or what, they are all under Ministry of Education and Sports. So they have to take the lead with the Curriculum Development Center. For us, we shall be ready when we are called upon. She will mention that. My brother Mugwanya, I cannot agree with you more, because I think the issue of assessment is very, very essential. And when we talk of area identification, it is through assessments, and we need to emphasize it more. And the issue of languaging, again, we need, I think, together with Dr. Pamela and her ministry, how we teach our service providers. You can see it is a communication. By the way, some of you have done communication as a module in your various trainings. I am sure you know, you agree with me. Everyone, if you say, do you know communication? Everyone here is going to say, yes. If we put a simple test for 2 minutes, 90% or more will fail. You have agreed with me. So we need to know the basic principles of communication. Again, maybe Dr. Pamela, this is something that needs to be stressed during the trainings of various service providers, being teachers, being health providers, communication. I also thought that I was a good communicator until I was subjected to a communication module, and I realized I didn't know. And I continue learning more. Inadequate care by the health providers. We have taken note of that. You know, sometimes you also sometimes don't want to talk negative about yourself, isn't it? Okay? But we know that there are weaknesses. And through monitoring visits and supervision, we detect that, we know that. And we mentor them. That is through mentoring. The issue of catheters, there are more devices that continue coming on board. And I think, again, the other young, what was his name? Huh? He has gone. Yeah. Hey, yes, you know what he talked. Catheters. Sometimes you may think catheters are only maybe for what, but they are somewhere where they can be looked at as assistive devices in that area. Alex Mwonge, somewhere from Masaka, data. I think, does it capture also the invisible disabilities? I'll make a quick comment on that, and then I'll ask Prosper, the commission agenda, because it is related to another question that was asked that by somebody who said, since data is a problem across board, can we have a central database? I leave that to the mother ministry. But one of the things is that our health management information system is now robust enough. I talked about it. It captures even these invisible. In fact, at another date, we shall be able to tell you that Down syndrome in this year, we saw this. But those are the people who are coming because we have it. Those are the ones coming to the health facilities. What about those are still hidden in the bedrooms? Okay?
Thank you, Dr. Stanley.
Yes, thank you very much. Lastly, I think should depression and dyslexia come on board? That was a question to Dr. Pamela. Thank you.
Okay. Majora, can you take it to Dr. Pamela? You can answer only what you want to answer, and as quickly as possible. Our food is getting cold. Majora, time.
Thank you very much, moderator. The first one is on the curriculum. On this health-related, I can't comment on it, but we know that it is catered for. But on the teaching side, we have a curriculum for special needs and inclusive education for all teachers who go in primary teachers' colleges. And then we have a full-fledged department in Chambago University that trains teachers for special needs and inclusive education. So the issue of curriculum is catered for. And we are coming up with the Uganda National Institute for Teacher Education, and the special needs and inclusive education has been considered as a full-fledged program and a standalone examinable subject. And it will cater from ECD to lecture level. Those who are going to teach as lecturers, they have to pass through Uganda National Institute for Teacher Education to be able to do special needs and be able to accommodate students with disabilities who go to university. Then on the issue of having dyslexia is considered as an invisible disability. I remember you explained it. You cannot know that a child has dyslexia unless you as a teacher understand what dyslexia is and you are able to interact with the child. And then on depression, I may not confirm that depression is an invisible disability or not, because depression is triggered by a condition or a situation. So I may have some problems and it triggers depression. So I cannot confirm that it's an invisible disability, but it's something that we can research on and see whether it qualifies to be an invisible disability. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pamela. Can I have Dr. Jok? Dr. Jok, you have 1 minute. You can use this.
Thank you. 1 minute, let me try. The most crucial question is on my colleague's caveat about quota employment policy. I want to say that I think the literature review shows that quota were introduced after the First and Second World Wars, and it was mostly in response to injured World War veterans who came back after laying their life for their countries, but they came back injured and could not be employed. So, in response, the governments introduced quota employment arrangement to give them a living, a way of work. So this is how quota really originated, and quota moved from a thing for veteran soldiers who were injured in world wars to all disabilities. And as we talk now, over 100 countries worldwide are implementing quota mandates. The literature actually shows that quota are effective or can be effective depending on how you design and implement it. If you want, refer to Japan, refer to Germany, refer to South Korea, where quota effectiveness has been demonstrated. And you can read more about a study we have done here in Uganda last year, which shows that 95% of the employers expressed willingness to enforce a quota law if it were introduced in Uganda. My own opinion is that we should implement quotas, and I would request our MPs here to push the government to enforce the quota mandate which is in the law this time. Let us design it properly so that we watch the outcome for 5-10 years and we see what it will contribute to the employability of persons with disabilities. Actually, the thinking why the quotas were introduced was that employers tend to turn away persons with disabilities from the labor market for reasons based on irrational discrimination, based on attitudes. So they turn away people with disabilities from work just because of their disability. So the idea behind quota is that by making it legal, then employers will be compelled to hire persons with disabilities. This is the assumption behind quotas that I know. Yeah, thank you. The other issues are, if you allow me 1 minute, the issue of accessibility and people with physical disabilities being more in the market. I thought that was a very good observation that he made. So the implication is actually that since more and more persons with physical disabilities are the one accessing the workplace, so the issue of workplace inaccessibility is therefore a very serious policy and practical issue for Uganda to address. The issue of teacher-pupil ratio, I think that was a disagreement, but we can consult the books, what they say about the correct teacher-pupil ratio. It's not something we can pull ropes on. And yeah, I think that's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner, do you want to respond to anything in 1 minute?
Thank you. Two major questions: access to government programs. Honorable Ndezi Ebri explained this, but may I request my colleague, Madame Akot Miriam, to stand up? Yes, she's here. For those who can see, for those who can't see, we shall explain. She's the coordinator for the National Special Grant on Disability, and she's here the whole afternoon to make sure that when we get time, we engage with her. If there are issues of exclusion, we should solve them here.
Instantly.
Instantly. We don't want really to go back with the issues. I want Mr. Majwara William to stand up. Mr. Majora William was leading a team of consultants developing the National Disability Information System, and it is due for launching. His Excellency the President will be launching it this Friday, and this management information system is going to be linked with UBOS, it's going to be linked with Uganda Registration Bureau for NGOs to link in the system, and many others. So we are starting, and we are going to be adding other modules to make sure that we have a comprehensive data management system for the disability. I thank you, moderator. I'm ready to answer other issues when people's stomachs are healthy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What a better way to end this session. We are into our lunch. We have already eaten into it. But I want to plead with you that we still have a lot to cover. Can we take 45 minutes to do everything we have to do at lunchtime? Then we come back and we fire up to around 4:30. So 45 minutes. I'm having Mama Beatrice Guzu, she's my timekeeper. And we should be back promptly 15 minutes past 3. Can I request a good Christian or a good Muslim to lead us in a word of prayer so that we save time? When you reach there, don't pray again. Yes, yes. Can I plead? Can I get somebody? Yes, come and pick the mic, please. Run very quickly. You look very energetic. You come very quickly. Good, 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 good. Yes. This one doesn't have any disability, whether visible or invisible. It's here. She doesn't have any. I can testify.
Just humble ourselves and pray for the lunch. Father, and we pray that as we partake of it, you sanctify it for the best of your glory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
You all have coupons. We are going down in the garden. Down in the garden, you have a coupon. Present your coupon, and you'll be served as much as you want.
You see, we have got 3 levels of government. We have got the village level, we have got the sub-county level, and we have got the district level. So we got it from the district. The CDOs, the senior CDO, mobilized. You see, we have got 3 levels of government. We have got the village level, we have got the sub-county level, and we have got the district level. So we got it from the district. The CDOs, the senior CDO, mobilized sub-county CDOs. And the sub-county CDOs mobilized with people with disability to form groups. So when they told us form groups, that's when they told us that there is a national special grant, which was different from the earlier grant which was given at the district. Because the other one used to have, actually, the money they used to give was very little. And now this one, they had, the money had increased. Therefore, people were mobilized, and we went down begin mobilizing people with disability to form groups. One of the biggest problems is to form groups. But I'm happy that Mukono district here has several groups which we have formed in as far as national special. But that came from up, from the ministry, the district, sub-county, and here we are.
We got it from the Ministry of Gender, and they admired us, and they managed to give us like buying for us the chalk material, solar dryer, weighing machine, all the materials which we use to produce chalk.
We do make natural soap. Natural soap, basically for bathing. We make bathing bars, and we also skill into learning weaving, tailoring. Those are the things we do. But it's a group comprising many women because we don't limit. It's women and children with albinism. So what makes you qualify is when you have albinism. So when you come, we do welcome you and make sure that whatever we have, we share equally.
You remember I've talked of begging. Now we are no longer begging. Already now I am harvesting food. Can I beg now? Instead, it's me to give. Because I am selling. I cannot go to ask for soap. Neither can any member of my group go to ask for sugar. So really when it comes to income, we are getting some income. Much as the income is not enough, but we are at least better off than we were before getting national special grant. Because even we are beginning even to save. We are beginning to save something which was history. So you find that our lives are changing, our families are changing. I'm very sure we shall be getting much as the children still are now. But when it comes to paying off school fees, members will be able to pay school fees. So, and in the future, people, because with this saving, when we continue, people who have been living in makeshifts, they will be having permanent houses with this income. So generally, life is changing. We are sleeping on mattresses. So really, it has the very, very big impact.
We are looking at basic things, but our main emphasis is economic empowerment, skilling to see that we sustain ourselves. Because we looked at women being the most vulnerable in this condition of being persons with albinism. Yeah. So we looked at it that if we empower women, they can look after their children when they are rejected of being children with albinism, and even the women ourselves to sustain ourselves. We started from scratch. We had nothing. We were just improvising locally. We're looking at things the way they are done, and then for us we go and improvise because we never had capital. Ourselves were capital. Our effort and availability, the numbers was the capital.
You have to work as a group. Much as you are working as a group, there is a concern. We are saying, for us as far as Mukono, we had to work separately. You find the money is there, but people are working on different projects, individual projects. But we are saying that when it comes to these fruits now, one of the challenges is that we have, at times we have bumper harvests, which is a positive, but in one way, which is a negative, because the prices go low. So here we are saying that if we could get value addition, we're recommending that the government goes in to help people with disability to have value addition. Because when it comes to value addition, even the prices will. Now, for example, if these fruits will get machines to have juice out of them, the market will be high. And at the same time, you will be able to keep it for some time. But at times you have a challenge. When they are so much, they rot. They rot when the market is up. So if we could have value addition as far as we see, purple growing is concerned. I think that could be very, very important.
We are requesting the government to increase on the grant which is given to us. The 5 million which is given to us is not enough because all things are increasing.
It hurts when people do not get to know us. As a result, we feel alone, misunderstood, and unaccepted. People are parking in a parking space reserved for the disabled with a big sign for saying, "Wano wa Abarema." But they look fine. I wonder if that driver has an invisible disability. More people than you realize are silently suffering from invisible disability. However, how can we all be more mindful of those with invisible disabilities? Practice kindness. You truly never know what pain someone else would be through. Be more mindful. Invisible disabilities are real. Say it louder for the folk at the back.
Every day. Because if, as we started buying that, the pop, solar dryer, the weighing machine, the cooking oil which we are using, all things are increased. So 5 million is not enough for the group to do. So we are requesting the government at least to give us like 30 million so that people can benefit from that.
We call for more because like we are in the limelight now because like when we try to utilize this, what we got, and other members are coming in because of what we've done. But it's not basically enough, though we do appreciate. And on top of that, COVID came in. But so far those were the challenges we're having. Because like when you're in the limelight, people expect that there is a lot. When you try to put something on ground, they think there is a lot. No, it's not yet enough. Though we do appreciate, but it's not enough.
We have put in place a number of things and as far as this grant is concerned. One, we'll put this garden of the pop. Two, there is another garden for Bogoya. Three, there is another garden for Popo, which are still young. And on top of that, one of the members even put up a farm supply, a small farm supply shop. So really we have utilized it. That's how we put it in place, utilized. And people are earning. People are earning income, much as we are beginning. But we see a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. Because we shall earn and we shall benefit out of it. Already we are seeing the food, we are already eating, and we are selling. You can't tell us the children, our children will be malnourished. They eat the food.
We are here producing school chalk. We got a grant of 5 million from the Ministry of Gender, and we started producing chalk.
So when we got this grant, we managed to purchase some things to look a bit professional. Like we bought an oven, we bought molds, those which make the bread and the buns. The oven is there, and even some materials. We also made some cartons for the soap, locally made, because the soap we make, they were imported, but of course they depreciate. Much as, okay, it's okay, we want to appreciate. Not looking at COVID, it has its effects, but we appreciate, but it's not enough. Much as they say in Uganda, there is a saying that if it's a small portion of meat, you start kind of complaining for another when this one is in the armpit.
Popo, unlike other fruits, we harvest thrice a week. in these 2 acres, we harvest something like 200, which means a week we harvest something like 400. So multiply that one at 1,000, that's the income which we get. We find really it is quite a lucrative venture. And it is quick maturing, unlike other fruits, because at 6 months, it begins to flower. 12 months, you've started harvesting. So the harvesting goes on for something like 8 to 10 years. Quickly, you are assured of money. It is certainly you cannot have a problem of salt. No, you will not have a problem of soap or sugar. No, with a purple. That is, we have one type which is called the red lady, that one which is purplish, and we have got this yellow one, the yellow one. But the prices differ. But here, it is the same. But when you go to Nakasero and you ask for that purple one, that reddish one, the red lady, it is quite expensive. Because at Nakasero, you find it, they sell at 6,000 in scarcity. Time of scarcity, you sell at 6,000. One piece. But here, as it is, they just get, at the same price. We just sell at the same price.
During the period of lockdown, we have faced many challenges that the school which we are producing is no longer moving because the schools are closed. So,
You see, we have got 3 levels of government. We have got this village level, we have got the sub-county level, and we have got the district level. So we got it from the district. The CDOs, the senior CDO, mobilized sub-county CDOs. And the sub-county CDOs mobilized with people with disability to form groups. So when they told us form groups, that's when they told us that there is a national special grant, which was different from the earlier grant which was given at the district. Because the other one used to have, actually, the money which they used to give was very little. And now this one, the money had increased. Therefore, people were mobilized, and we went down, begin mobilizing people with disability to form groups. One of the biggest problems is to form groups. But I'm happy that Mukono district here has several groups which we have formed as far as national special. But that came from the ministry, the district, sub-county, and here we are.
We got it from the Ministry of Gender, and they admired us, and they managed to give us like buying for us the chalk material, solar dryer, weighing machine, all the materials which we use to produce chalk.
We do make natural soap. Natural soap, basically for bathing. We make bathing bars, and we also skill into learning weaving, tailoring. Those are the things we do. But it's a group comprising many women because we don't limit. It's women and children with albinism. So what makes you qualify is when you have albinism. So when you come, we do welcome you and make sure that whatever we have, we share equally.
You remember I've talked of begging. Now we are no longer begging. Already now I am harvesting fruits. Can I beg now? Instead, it's me to give. Because I am selling. I cannot go to ask for soap. Neither can any member of my group go to ask for sugar. So really, when it comes to income, we are getting some income. Much as the income is not enough, but we are at least better off than we were before getting national special grant. Because even we are beginning even to save. We are beginning to save something which was history. So you find that our lives are changing, our families are changing. I'm very sure we shall be getting, much as the children still are home now, but when it comes to paying off school fees, members will be able to pay school fees to the children. So, and in the future, people, because with this saving, when we continue, people who have been living in makeshifts, they will be having permanent houses with this income. So generally, life is changing. We are sleeping on mattresses. Something is not good. So really, it has a very, very big impact.
We are looking at basically, for us, we have many objectives, but our main emphasis is economic empowerment, skilling to see that we sustain ourselves. Because we looked at women being the most vulnerable in this condition of being persons with albinism. Yeah. So we looked at it that if we empower women, they can look after their children when they are rejected of being children with albinism, and even the women ourselves, to sustain ourselves. We started from scratch. We had nothing. We were just improvising locally. We enter, we're looking at things the way they are done, and then for us we go and improvise because we never had capital. Ourselves we are capital. Our effort and the availability of the numbers was the capital.
You have to work as a group. Much as you are working as a group, there is a concern. We are saying, for us as far as Mkono, we had to work separately. You find the money is there, but people are working on different projects, individual projects. But we are saying that when it comes to these fruits now, one of the challenges is that we have, at times we have bumper harvests, which is a positive, but in one way, which is a negative, because the prices go low. So here we are saying that if we could get value addition, we are recommending that the government goes in to help people with disability to have value addition. Because when it comes to value addition, even the prices will. Now, for example, if these fruits, we get machines to have juice out of them, the market will be high. And at the same time, you will be able to keep it for some time. But at times you have a challenge. When they are so much, they rot. They rot when the markets are full. So if we could have value addition as far as this purple growing is concerned, I think that could be very, very important.
That we are requesting the government to increase on the grant which is given to us. The 5 million which is given to us is not enough because all things are increasing every day. Because if, as we started buying the pulp, solar dryer, the weighing machine, the cooking oil which we are using, all things are increased. So 5 million is not enough for the group to be given. So we are requesting the government at least to give us like 30 million so that people can benefit from that grant.
We call for more because like we are in the limelight now because like when we try to utilize this, what we got, and other members are coming in because of what we've done. But it's not basically enough, though we do appreciate. And on top of that, COVID came in. But so far, those were the challenges we're having. Because like when you're in the limelight, people expect that there is a lot. When you try to put something on ground, they think there is a lot. No, it's not yet enough. Though we do appreciate, but it's not enough.
We have put in place a number of things as far as this grant is concerned. One, We have put this garden of the pawpaw. 2, there is another garden for Bogoya. 3, there is another garden for pawpaw, which are still young. And on top of that, one of the members even put up a farm supply, a small farm supply shop. So really we have utilized it. That's how we have put it into utilized. And people are earning. People are earning income, much as we are beginning. But we see a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. Because we shall earn and we shall benefit out of it. Already we are seeing the fruit. We are already eating and we are selling. You can't tell us the children, our children will be malnourished. They eat the fruit.
We are here producing school chalk. We got a grant of 5 million from the Ministry of Gender, and we started producing chalk.
So when we got this grant, we managed to purchase some things to look a bit professional. Like we bought an oven, we bought molds, those which make the bread and the buns. The oven is there, and even some materials. We also made some cutters for the soap, locally made, because the soap we make, they were imported, but of course they depreciate. Much as, okay, it's okay, we want to appreciate. Not looking at COVID, it has its effects, but we appreciate, but it's not enough. Much as they say in Uganda, there is a saying that if it's a small portion of meat, you start kind of complaining for another when this one is in the armpit.
Pawpaw, unlike other fruits, we harvest twice a week. In these 2 acres, we harvest something like 200, which means a week we harvest something like 400. So multiply that one at 1,000, that's the income which we get. You find really it is quite a lucrative venture. And it is quick maturing, unlike other fruits, because at 6 months, it begins to flower. 12 months, you've started harvesting. So the harvesting goes on for something like 8 to 10 years. Quickly, you are assured of money. It is certainly you cannot have a problem of salt. No, you will not have a problem of soap or sugar. No, with the pawpaw, that is. We have one type which is called the red lady, that one which is purplish, and we have got this yellow one, the yellow one. But the prices differ. But here, it is the same. But when you go to Nakasero and you ask for that purplish one, that reddish one, the red lady, it is quite expensive. Because at Nakasero, you find it, you sell at 6,000 in scarcity. Time of scarcity, you sell at 6,000. One piece. But here, as it is, they just get, at the same price. We just sell at the same price.
During the period of lockdown, we have faced many challenges that the school which we are producing is no longer moving because the schools are closed. So,
seja mwene fufu awo antelo mukisa werwakera nga mwangera mukama teyateeka mukiseri yakuteekawo weruvumira mazima lwakera n'alulagira nti mwangera ebintu byakyuka emimwa gy'abangi yagisigisa nga mbiriddeyo katonda bwe bambuza n'olwaleero njagala ndaba alina kyagamba weyantera omukisa wakati w'ennyanja abo masekati g'embuyaga weyantera omukisa wakati w'abangi bemeeninyaza masekati g'ebigambo weyantera omukisa kati njagala olabe leero nti omukisa guva gy'ali teri muntu alina kigambo kisobola kumenya mukisa guli gwerukeera n'asinga nti luwera ebintu bikyuka ekintu kituuka ng'ayingiddewo katonda omutegeera ensi n'ensi zikyusa emitwe ku luboomu weyantera omukisa wakati w'ennyanja masekati g'embuyaga weyantera omukisa wakati w'abangi bemeeninyaza tinze wenninya wesitaza weyantera omukisa nga mpiriddeyo katonda gwe bambuza gwe naswalira n'olwaleero njagala ndaba alina kyagamba weyantera omukisa wakati w'ennyanja masekati g'embuyaga weyantera omukisa wakati w'abangi bemeeninyaza tinze wenninya wesitaza weyantera omukisa
Echizangala choyaka chimtumuzango tusiganeo walikulusi wateza wirabe mutuntu situgeufembi ate wirabira kamanfuli no sagala omyuke Goleti chisike mimwa eche chikulombalomba onjagala tubere ofebi onjagala tubere ofebi uzije nkusanga oh tewirabira nkomuwanga kuluzi gyenkusanga gyenkusanga tewirabira nkomuwanga obulungi bw'ekyalo babukusomesekamu ekirungi toyina maalo mukyalo nga bano abalala bagoleti abakulopalopa kasikusuubasooba mpolampola obaleke ku lugambo yambala kasenkyeyikali ekuba akabobo nkaliye nakufunidde akalabo nambyosanyuke ojakunakatambalako kuno jakufaseko kuluzi gyenkusanga nambi tewerabera kumumwanga nambi kuluzi gyenkusanga tewerabera kumumwanga
Studios. Anyway, Studios. Anyway, Studios.
Could you kindly talk to your colleagues to come back? Give them some calls. Tell them we are cutting a cake. Then they'll come running, eh? Especially the ladies. Ladies like cakes. I don't know why. You are looking for the cake now, eh? Tell them we are about to cut the cake, and then they will run here. And we run very quickly, we finish. Those are the challenges. You cannot shout at them. You cannot force them. Yes. You know that bit, she'll look at you like this. This man doesn't know I'm an accounting officer. Must remind you that I'm the accounting officer. So don't sound that way. I have to hear you.
On.
It's just a similar thing because we did not address the topic. I'm told there was
Okay.
so you can write your name, brief.
which paper is it?
The CS one. But the topic is not the same. It is on invisible children, invisible disability.
Hello there. People, we have a special guest who is going to sing for us as we do start this afternoon session. Very, very special. And if you clap now, he's going to come. If you don't clap, kwaheri. Can you clap? Yes, he's here. Castin, give us a twist.
Chino chendi echokuzara bwenti chechali mupulani mukama yakila oyo bwali nayali nayesubi ejokuba bulungi mwenesi. All we need is care. All we need is care. All we need is care. Love and comfort. All we need is care. All we need is care. Love and comfort. All we need is care. Chinsababu wangu sanze togana kunje munyambe nange ndi muntu ngakwe nini ebiloto ngakwe. Disability is no inability. All we need is your company. Echokumera no bulemu si necessity. Tukatide wao up to victory. Tomanya jemukera naze ayambo yomwana wo. Wetomanya jemukera naze mukulembeze wancha. All we need is care. Love and comfort. All we need is care. All we need is care. Love and comfort. All we need is care. Nenda turanisa kocha kumwa sega tokujigoba mukola makula mwe abatulabirira obutawera mwe balebe mukola abazadde temusosola baana mubawe ebisana check up ezentagire zigwana. Thanks to Shine Uganda. All we need is for your body, love and comfort. All we need is care, love and clemency. All we need is for your body, love and comfort. All we need is care, love and clemency. All we need is care, love and comfort. All we need is care. Thank you.
Okay. Another? Okay, Castin will be coming back later. We are trying to program our documents. Please come back for this. There is a take home. there's a take home here. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to warmly welcome you from lunch, and I trust that you enjoyed the lunch. I judged by you delayed there, meaning that some of you went for doubles, which is okay. Which is okay. You see, we have to grow up very well, and so we need to eat adequate food. Now, we have two presentations that are going to run very quickly. One is let me introduce one of us, Peter Etabu, is going to present on invisible children with disabilities, and it's going to take about 7 minutes because part of what he wanted to say has already been said. And after Peter Tabu, who is the Executive Director, Cheshire Homes, Country Director, African Revival, Country Manager, Right Play, former, and he holds a Master's of Business Administration and a Bachelor of Science and Business Administration, all from Makerere University. Can I invite Peter to spend the next 5 minutes speaking to us? After Peter, Honorable Hafisa Kasule, somebody will be coming.
Thank you very much, moderator. And I greet you all. Good afternoon. I've already been introduced. I will only make a small correction. My master's is from India, Assam Don Bosco University, Catholic University. And the bachelor's is from Lincoln University in the US. I only wrote my brief profile on Yahari. I would have given all those details. Thank you. This presentation is a collective effort and represents the CSOs working in the field of disability. And as you can see, those are the CSOs that contributed to this presentation. The other thing is, if you don't see your logo there, my apologies. The presentation, as it has already been mentioned, it has been covered. Especially Dr. Pamela has done a very wonderful presentation. Much of it has been covered in Dr. Pamela's presentation. However, we will not leave it go to the shelves. We will still make part of the presentation. And the outline already has been presented to you. And we have already mentioned that all disabilities matter. That is our theme for the day. And basically, this presentation is meant to highlight the state of the invisible children with the disabilities. I would actually say with the invisible disabilities in Uganda, and just to draw the attention of CSOs and other actors into their inclusion. And already as I've mentioned, disability and invisible disability has already been explained. So, but still not bad that I explained to you that this presentation perceives two types of children: those with invisible disabilities and those with visible disabilities. And invisible disabilities can either be those which are non-visible. You cannot see with your eyes. When you meet me, you will not be able to tell whether I have a disability or not. Then the visible ones are the ones you can be able to see. Screen down, okay. You can be able to see immediately you meet me. So those are the types of disabilities which we are talking about. And of course, as you know, most of these children with invisible disabilities are left out in our programming. Whenever we are programming, we are looking for those with visible disabilities. And it's basically what makes them to be left out and to be always missed out in our programming. And those children with disability, according to the Disabled World, they have listed about 60 types of invisible disabilities. And the list is quite long, but we have just picked a few, which include autism, ADHD, arthritis, brain injury, several of them. I will not mention all of them. So there are quite many, about 60, but I'm not saying the Disabled World is the final, and it has all types of disabilities. It has only given what it was able to identify, but there are several. And the purpose of me bringing all this is so that we could be able to all understand the different types of disabilities that we interface with in our daily work. So as a result of this, many children actually face a lot of stigma and also social barriers, which actually affect their physical, social, and development and well-being. And in most often, as I mentioned earlier, even in our implementation of programs, we find that their conditions are not, because their conditions are not visible, they are always left out, and they are not benefiting from any programs. And sometimes some of these things are also pushed by donor. When you mention that this child has a disability, they will not be able to understand. One time I interfaced with a child in one of the schools for the blind. And straight away, we said that child didn't have any disability. But again, when the child was examined, and was trying to say the child is removed from the school, but when the child was examined actually at Mengo Hospital, this child was found to be having a visual impairment. So, so that particular screen has already been mentioned, I think, by Dr. Pamela's presentation. And I will still highlight it that up to about 12.4% of people out of this population are disabled in Uganda, living with disability. Sorry for that. And they face a number of challenges, and some of them are child neglect. That is at a community level. And sometimes also, as I mentioned, they're left out in social welfare programs. And especially even in our projects and planning. As you know, NGOs, we work in projects and programs. Continue. Next slide. Next. Has the slide disappeared? The next slide. Okay. Yeah. Much of that was covered by Dr. Pamela. If we can go to the recommendations for CSOs. Yes, suggestions here. Yeah, this has been mentioned, but I will still highlight it that we, as a CSOs, we need to carry out targeted awareness raising about this kind of situation of invisible children or invisible disabilities, and also do a lot of advocacy, and so that we can be able to create conditions that are necessary to ensure that these children are not excluded from any of the programs that we implement. And also, in terms of advocacy, we also need to see how we can be able to intensify advocacy for policy changes. But I also realize that we need to do a lot of advocacy with the leadership at the local community level, district levels, all levels actually. So, but also in doing so and in awareness, we should be able to generate some evidence that informs our programming so that we can be able to adequately have these children to be included in our programming. And also, already they have mentioned about that, and I think one of the things that we need to take seriously as we leave this place is to ensure that we come up with and link up with various entities responsible for getting this information. But at the CSO level, we also need to see how CSOs can come together and come up with a method of collecting data, especially when we are implementing projects at project level, so that we can be able to share this data with a wider audience. So, next. So in particular, the disability organization need to step up advocacy, lobbying for recognition of invisible children with disabilities by the NGOs and in the communities, and push for governments as a duty bearer and to ensure that disability programming policies and laws are implemented to benefit children with invisible disabilities, as well as strengthening preventive measures on the preventable disabilities. And we already recognize the fund which has already been mentioned at the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. And I think we appreciate that a lot. And, but also when I was listening, this is my personal opinion, when I was listening to, they were talking about photographs and all that, but I think that one was addressed in that meeting we had some time back. Because sometimes this invisible disability does not, if you take me a picture, nobody will be able to see my disability. Next. So I come to the end of this presentation, and we didn't want to look like academic thieves. We had to list those references down in case you want more information where we picked some of this information from. And I thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you for being kind to share with us. Colleagues, one of the things that runs across all the presentation, the issue of collaboration, the issue of cooperation, the issue of networking. And the thing is that if we don't do all those, then we guarantee competition. And well, the problems we have are enormous. The people we serve are so many. No single organization can adequately reach out to all the children, to all the people who require our interventions. So the solution lies in cooperation, collaboration, and networking, and nowhere else. And the sooner we made our agenda very clear and we agree to network, to collaborate, to cooperate, then we shall leave a lot of things to be desired. My big brother, Honorable Alex Sindezi, is taking leave of us. He has been here since morning. He has to catch up with Parliament, and he has asked another brother of mine, Haji Mpindi, to remain. And since he's the chair of the caucus, he has not requested him. He has directed him to remain and attend the rest of the business and report back. Whenever it's in days, we want to thank you. We thank you for your commitment and for being always ready to serve the people of Uganda and especially the people with disability. We thank you so much. If I was not a public servant, next elections I would campaign for you. But let's see, I might decide to retire and I campaign for you. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a friend of mine I've taken so long to see. She has been everywhere and decided to dodge where I go. This lady, I'm going to introduce to you. She's Hajat Hasfa Kasure Chambade. She holds a master's in public health, a master's in business administration, a bachelor's in medicine and surgery. She has worked in Mulago Hospital, worked at IHK. She now works with World Health Organization. But before all this, we met so many years ago when she became one of the first youth members of parliament in this country, representing the central region. She also served as a women councillor for Kawempe North. After a stint in politics, she decided to go back to her profession, which is looking at medicine and mixing medicine and giving solutions about diseases. After her presentation, then we shall discuss Tabu's presentation together with Honorable Kasule Chambade, Doctor. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Assistant Commissioner Mondo, for the kind words. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to say that many of the things I'm going to present have been talked about, but since these are supposed to be standards, I may be repeating what has already been said. And saying this does not mean nothing is happening in this country, so I'm just presenting it as it should be. Unfortunately for us, in the presentations that have been made earlier, we have not reached 100% in any of the aspects, so we still have room to improve. Can we please move on? Yes. Next slide, please. Okay, the next, okay, briefly we shall, okay, that one, okay. Thank you very much. I wanted to start with the definition of WHO, that health is a complete state of physical, mental, social, and spiritual well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. So the moment any of those aspects is affected, it means you're not well, you're not healthy. And the main determinants of health are social, economic, and environmental factors, which are outside the jurisdiction of the health sector. I want to stop there and say that, just like Dr. Mondo said, health alone cannot create health. Health is created outside health, and the health workers come in to mend broken health. So health is multisectoral. Okay, persons with disability who experience high rates of poverty face conditions that impact negatively on their health, including lack of access to education, sanitary living conditions, clean water, food, among others, and are susceptible, more than the general population, to secondary health conditions, leading to greater needs Persons with disability experience significant barriers to accessing health care, including physically inaccessible medical facilities and equipment. We talked about that one. Lack of appropriate transport, medical care rehabilitation centers. We also had something about that. Lack of communication and accommodation in health care facilities. Communication in terms of sometimes the language being used is not understood depending on the impairment that one has. So you don't understand the communication depending on your impairment. Inadequate skilled staffing and negative attitudes of health care providers. We have also had that one. And harmful practices, particularly in relation to persons with psychosocial disabilities. And I want to say that more than 50% of people with disability in low and income countries like Uganda cannot afford proper health care. And we all agree with that. I would like to say that care must also be taken to meet the health needs of those with invisible disabilities, psychosocial disabilities, and other mental conditions. Mental health has received inadequate attention, and it imposes an enormous disease burden and an increasing obstacle to development worldwide. The medical model, we heard about models in the morning, but the medical model of disability defines disability as a problem and the medical intervention as the solution, which makes individuals, societies, and government avoid responsibility for addressing the barriers that exist in the social and physical environment, thereby investing in medical research that aims to find the cure to the certain disabilities and not investing in removing the barriers that create the disability. The social model of disability includes modifying the created environment, providing information in accessible formats that ensure that policies and laws support the exercise of full participation and not discrimination. Next, please. So how big is this problem of disability? Worldwide, 1 billion people, that's 15% of the world's population, live with some form of disability, with about 93 million children and 720 million adults having significant disabilities in functioning, and about 190 million, which is 3.8%, people aged 15 years and older have significant difficulties in functioning and need healthcare services. About 80 million African people live with disabilities, and that is according to the United Nations. In Uganda, this number, we have seen it, but according to the projections, the current estimates, it's about 5.7 million Ugandans have some form of disability. Disability is a human rights issue in that people with disability are among the world's most discriminated people and often experience violence, prejudice, denial of autonomy, as well as facing barriers to care. Denial of autonomy, we had people with mental health disability are sometimes considered lack the capacity to take decisions or are denied the opportunity to take some of the decisions that they need, especially regarding care. Disability is a development priority as well. It has a higher prevalence in low and income countries, and disability and poverty mutually reinforce each other, meaning that if you're disabled, you're likely to fall into poverty. And if you're poor, addressing your disability may also be a problem. So they mutually reinforce each other. And almost everyone, including us in this room, is likely to experience some form of disability, whether it's temporary or permanent, at some point in our lives. So what legal framework is there internationally? The right to health is well established in international human rights law, including in the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, which recognizes the right of persons to the highest attainable standard of health, that is Article 12. The Covenant on the Rights of Children, which requires state parties, including Uganda, to recognize the rights of children with disabilities, access to healthcare services, and rehabilitation services in a manner conducive to the social integration, individual culture, and spiritual development, which is in Article 23. And the WHO Constitution also enshrines the highest attainable standard of health as a fundamental right of every human being. The Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability reinforces and strengthens protection of persons with disability in relation to health and rehabilitation, which is Article 25, and further guarantees the right of persons with disability to access rehabilitation services of all kinds, which is in Article 26. And in the morning, we heard what challenges we are having in this country. So disability inclusion in the health sector, what does this look like? Disability inclusion in the health sector, national disability strategies, national action plans, and to implement and monitor the CRPD are often overlooked. And attaining the highest possible standard of health and well-being of all will only be possible when disability inclusion is intrinsic, is part of, is within to the health sector priorities, including universal health coverage without financial hardship. The rider there is without financial hardship. Protection during health emergencies, like we've had in COVID. We had the beds of mentally ill, or people with mental disability were given away to COVID. That shouldn't happen, because the fact that there was COVID did not stop mental disabilities, people with mental disability continuing to have challenges. So this should not be happening. And access to cross-sectoral public health interventions such as water, sanitation, and hygiene services. Access to health for persons with disability, and which are the areas of concern. The health status of persons with disability is sometimes poorer than that of the general population as a result of inequalities and inequities in access to health care. And therefore, there's need to enhance the capacity of persons with disability to access healthcare systems, and also ensure that the systems can respond appropriately in a timely manner to their needs. So for instance, in terms of regarding water, sanitation, and hygiene, access to water, sanitation, and hygiene facilities is a precondition of good health for all persons. And Article 28 of the Convention ensures equal access by persons with disability to clean water, appropriate and affordable services, devices, and assistance for disability-related needs. Inaccessible toilet and water facilities are major contributory factors to school dropouts among children with disability, especially the girls. Regarding water as well, there's better facilities, reduce exposure to disease and illness, thereby increasing opportunities and life chances for disabled persons. With regard to health and persons with psychosocial disabilities, people with psychosocial disabilities or mental health conditions face challenges in accessing health care, and they are often abused. You know, these are people who are sometimes chained, who are given medications without their consent, and they lack community-based structures for their support. These people are committed to institutions, like patients are taken, for instance, here in Uganda, Butabika Hospital. Even the family abandons the person who is affected by this kind of disability into the institution. And yet they should be around a loving family, a loving community. Okay, sexual and reproductive health of persons with disability. I want to say that persons with disability have the same sexual and reproductive health needs as other persons. However, women with disability experience higher rates of gender-based violence, sexual abuse, neglect, maltreatment, forced treatment of procedures, including forced sterilization. This happens especially when the child is, or the girl child, or the woman has a mental problem. The family may choose to sterilize them, citing the fact that they may not be able to take care of the child. And of course, exploitation is more among women with disability than those who are not disabled. There's need to increase awareness regarding the needs and rights of persons with disability, which is critical to ensure that they have access to all sexual and reproductive health programs. And this is an advocacy issue, like my fellow doctor was saying. What about disability inclusion in HIV and AIDS response? A study done in 2014 in sub-Saharan Africa showed that the persons with disability are 1.3 times more at risk for contracting HIV than people without that disability. And according to the UNAIDS, people with disability represent one of the largest and most underserved populations when it comes to health and HIV services. So inclusion of persons with disability requires engagement in educating persons about HIV, providing HIV prevention commodities, services, treatment, providing protection from discrimination and sexual violence, and empowering persons to participate in the HIV response. Next, please. What about legislative and policy framework? We heard a bit about this before, but yes, let me repeat, since this is the only day we have in a year to do this. And regarding legislative and policy framework, countries have specific obligations under international law to respect, protect, and ensure the right to health for persons with disability. Awareness raising is essential to the building of organizational and individual capacity to deliver the range of health services that enable persons with disability to live fully inclusive lives in their communities. And regarding physical accessibility, there's need to ensure enjoyment of the rights of persons with disability to... Really? Is that better? That's better. Okay, I was looking at measures to ensure the rights of persons with disability to health services, and we are looked at the legislative framework that needs to be inclusive. And I was also looking at the physical accessibility. And I'm saying that we need to ensure enjoyment of the rights by persons with disability to health services. Accessibility should be focused mainly on the difficulties of the orientation of the healthcare setting, including completion of those registration forms, location of seats in the waiting area, and realization of when to enter the examination room. These should be taken into account as we think about accessing health services. Next, please. We know that there are also information barriers. We said that information is sometimes presented in a way that, depending on one's disability, cannot be comprehended. And we're saying the health service information, outreaches, and health promotion efforts should target uptake of disability, mental health, general services by persons with disability based on need and informed consent to the treatment. So we should be able to determine the kind of problem the person has and simplify and break down the information so that this person can understand and appreciate the kind of information that is being given, so that they can make an informed choice or consent on how to use this information. There are also economic barriers. So what we need to do about this one is that these factors are real barriers in relation to health services for persons with disability. And in many countries, only those who can afford to pay, even in Uganda, for supportive devices. We had their supportive devices, and although we have workshops, the materials are not available, which means even accessing these devices in this country is still a challenge. So such as crutches, hearing aids, and reading glasses are able to receive them. So if you can't afford, it means you are denied the chance to use this kind of device. So we are saying that government needs to make services affordable, subsidize these services for persons with disability. And I want to pause here and say, I don't know, maybe our members of parliament have left, the National Health Insurance National Health Insurance Bill is supposed to be providing a package of services for Ugandans. And I think they still have an opportunity to include needs for persons with disability in this health insurance bill. It has also been around since 2010, and the last time it was considered, I think that funds were not available, and this is where the team here can continue advocating so that when it's represented, it can also include persons with needs for persons with disability to be subsidized or covered by the government. The other issue is about ensuring disability, these are organizations that participate. They should participate, and health and social service support should be provided, organized, and designed around what is important to service users from their own perspective. What these organizations think that is good for the people with disability is what should be presented, advocated for, and provided. So these organizations should be part and parcel in the decision-making for services for persons with disability. And this is in line with the CRPD, which provides that persons with disability and their representative organizations should be consulted in law, police, and programming decisions. And that is Article 4, Section 3. So like somebody said, nothing for us without us. People with disability should be part of the decision-making as decisions are made about their welfare. The other issue that we need to look into is in institutional structures to support access to health services. Persons with disability should be able to access health services within the general health system. Mainstreaming is in the context of health promotes inclusion by making appropriate adjustments to the healthcare services, the policies, the practice, and facilities and delivery so that persons with disability can achieve full inclusion and active barrier-free participation in healthcare. The CRPD Article 33 calls for participation of persons with disabilities and their representative organizations to promote health rights and ensure harmonization across the government. Maybe this is what we call health in all policies or multi-sectoral action. Regarding budgeting, the non-affordability of health services and transport accounts for 2 of the main reasons why persons with disabilities do not receive needed health care in low-income countries like Uganda. And government should use the financial incentives or encourage health care providers to make services accessible and consider options for reducing out-of-pocket payments for people with disabilities who cannot afford health care services. The other area, it has been talked about a lot, is collecting data on the provision of healthcare services for persons with disability. Data on the rate at which persons with disabilities use healthcare services is often not readily available in many countries, and including Uganda. And the CRPD requires collection of appropriate information, including research to inform policy formulation and implementation for inclusive health services. Community-based rehabilitation. Here, the CRPD specifies that the right of persons with disabilities to live within their communities, which is in Article 19. Community-based rehabilitation focuses on enhancing the quality of life of people with disabilities and their families, meeting basic needs and ensuring inclusion and participation. The CBR, or community-based rehabilitation, has evolved from medical rehabilitation to comprehensive multi-sector approaches, such as access to healthcare, education, vocational training, income generation, and community participation and inclusion. Key community-based rehabilitation elements for Africa include a rights-based approach, empowering persons with disability and their families, access to information, holistic care, advocacy for appropriate laws and policies, self-advocacy of the disabled persons to ensure inclusion of disability issues in all development programs, and collaboration in all sectors. And with regard to access to supportive devices and technologies, the CRPD calls for availability, knowledge, and use of supportive devices and technologies designed for persons with disability for rehabilitation and habilitation. Habilitation is learning new skills or learning skills to live, and rehabilitation is relearning skills after getting a disability later in life. And here, 5 to 15% of people who require these assistive devices and technologies, only those ones, or maybe put the other way, from around 95% don't have access to assistive technologies in low and middle income countries. Access to such supportive technologies can help persons with disability live independently and participate in their societies. So what has WHO done? The World Health Organization works to fully integrate and promote disability inclusion in the health sector. It works to ensure that people with disability have equitable access to effective health services and the persons with disability are included in the health emergency preparedness and responses, and can access cross-sectoral public health interventions to achieve the highest attainable standard of health. WHO launched its policy on disability and Disability Inclusion Action Plan to operationalize the policy in line with the United Nations Disability Inclusion Strategy across WHO. So integrating disability inclusion systematically into all aspects of WHO's operational and programmatic work. So this policy is going to be the guiding document for the work of the World Health Organization to ensure that all the programs of WHO include interventions for persons with disability. WHO also provides member states and development partners with updated evidence, analysis, and recommendations related to disability inclusion in the health sector. And the WHO Global Report on Disability and Health will be launched in December 2022, meaning that data collection has already started. The challenge, so here I want to pause and say that the challenge that WHO mainly has when it comes to data, if the countries don't have enough local data, their estimates, their estimates to try and fill in the gaps in the national data. So yes, this report will be ready 2022 in December. WHO also develops normative tools, including guidelines, to strengthen disability inclusions in healthcare services. So in conclusion, emphasis on full inclusion of persons with disability and anti-discrimination provides an important background to development of more inclusive health services for persons with disability. Disability inclusion is critical to achieving better health and well-being because persons with disability are 4 to 10 times more likely to experience violence and are at higher risk of non-fatal injury from road traffic crashes. And the other one is that children with disabilities are 3 times more likely to experience sexual violence and 2 times more likely to be malnourished. Lastly, I would like to recommend that there is need to increase access to resources to facilitate inclusion for provision of assistive devices through existing healthcare structures, as well as personal and classroom assistants, sign language interpreters, among others. We would like to see scale up of disability inclusion in all levels of the health system, particularly primary health care, and also mainstream disability across health sectors, rights and needs of persons with disability in national responses, strategic plans of all relevant programs, including humanitarian emergencies and epidemics and pandemics like COVID-19, also addressing both technical solutions and attitudinal, as well as institutional barriers. And finally, we'd like to see reorientation of the health services towards a social model. A social model, so it considers the determinants, the barriers. It does not, it's not prescriptive that health is the cure, you know, the silver bullet or something like that. So the social model of disability and inclusion of persons with disability, both as a health service, consumer, and decision maker for planning, funding health services by all stakeholders should be considered. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Can we clap for her once again? Thank you very much, Dr. Kasule Shambade. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Very elaborate, very comprehensive, and I think it's now time that you had some questions, some comments. You have exactly 7 minutes within which to do that. One of the things you take note of is that as far as the policy and legal framework is concerned, we are upbeat. Our policies are so well grounded and do provide for inclusion. Even when you talk about those that we have ratified, the common protocols from out there, we are there. But the people with disability remain the most underserved people in our country. And we want to change this. And J.F. Kennedy, President of America, said, things don't happen. Things are made to happen. And it's you and me to make them happen by changing the way we do things. Somebody else said that doesn't help you to be the same person you were yesterday. And Barack Obama said, show me a man or woman who has done the same thing over and over the same way, over time, and expected different results, and I'll show you a mad one. So if we continue doing the same things from January to December, the same way, and we expect different results, then we qualify for Utabika. Yes, they talked about mental health. Are we okay mentally after the confusion by COVID-19? Smart. Are you still very smart after all this confusion? A lot of things have taken the toll of our heads, and so people are not thinking straight sometimes, and they need mental assistance. We have made commitments, wonderful. Legal policy environment, excellent. Implementation, wanting. And therefore somebody can say so much done, so a lot needs to be done. Can I have about 5 or 4 hands if anybody has anything to ask, to comment on, or to observe? Is my team still there, or they have retired and are tired? I'm the oldest in the team. You can't get tired before me. Oh yeah, William is there. Yes. If you're asking, you put up your hand high and you are saying. Don't come at the end when I'm stopping to ask, and then you put up your hand. I will not pick you. Okay, 1, 2. There's one there. Yeah, and I think that's all.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hajira from Cheshire Services, Uganda. I wanted to comment on the presentation especially around the information accessibility. The presenter did mention that when it comes to information access, it should be talking about explaining to the client, especially the one with disabilities, what they expect from the service they have sought. But in my own internalization of accessibility, it is a lot more. And that is why even this time of COVID, many persons with disabilities have been left behind to, in the information that was being shared, say on TV. Most of the persons with disabilities did not understand why we were under lockdown. They didn't understand all these things until a long time that there was some little signing to pass on information. So it is really nice that with or without emergency, that information accessibility is something that we move forward in everything that we do. Accessible formats. Most of these health campaigns, posters are done. But what about the person who is not seeing them? So there is a lot. There is, when it comes to TV, sometimes it is an advert or speaking about very good information, but there's no one signing that information. So there's a lot that we can do in service provision to make it a good world for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a hand at the back, extreme corner. At the back, this way. William, you look at me so that you know where I'm pointing. That extreme corner. Not casting, I'm talking about the extreme corner.
Thank you very much. I'm Eliazar Nyomi from World Vision, but mine is not a question, but a concern. When you look at time, in the house we have got children with wheelchairs, so I would kindly request that you consider movement from this place and we are not inconvenienced along the route by the LDUs as you commented.
Thank you very much. Good citizen. Thank you. Our Secretariat prepared a video clip for the UN Human Rights.
Thank you so much. I am Munaga Bernard. I come from Light for Women and Youth Action for Development. Today I come to demand for the needs of the PWDs.
And who has stopped you?
So that's why I'm here.
Please demand.
Please. One is on the thing that when a company employs 5 people, a discount will be given to that company. And really this thing is not working out. The way we can look for 5 people to be employed in the company is becoming a challenge. And this person is only looking for the discount, very small discount, as he employs us. So if I thought this thing can be reduced to either 2 people or even 1 person, but as long as that company is willing to employ this PWD, it can really give a great deal to us.
I thought you were going to add, but what you earn matters. It is not just a question of saying there are 2 if he or she is giving you peanuts. All right? My friend, you don't care. As long as you are employed, even if you are given peanuts. Okay, food for thought. The issue of the quota is important, but we thought that people sometimes were abusing it. They were paying the people they have employed, maybe 5, maybe 4, peanuts. But they will say it's the numbers. But then you count how much money is saving and how much money is paying your people. Really, that abuse, that insult, I think we cannot stand. We need to discuss and see the way forward. Yes, brother.
Thank you so much. My name is Anyi Cyprian, and I come from UNFPA. I'd like to commend our sister agency, WHO, for the work towards the disability strategy. I also would like to report to WHO and the House at large that the UN city, that is the UN country teams, have a disability scorecard where there are indicators that each agency has to achieve at the end of the year in line with disability inclusion. And right now we are working on a report, but also we are making recommendations for the years to come on how the UN country teams can improve disability inclusion. So WHO, let's work together on this, but also one of the indicators is working with other DPOs, and that's the reason why we are here. And more than ever now, we want to work towards the SDG and leave no one behind. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and we are open for more.
Thank you, UNFPA. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for your statement. The last one, then I'll have a statement by the UN Human Rights. All right. Peter, do you want to say something? Then Chambade. Yes.
I think I will say something in regards to access to information. And actually, what I can say is that I think it's an effort of all of us to ensure that in whatever programs that we are carrying out, we factor in the aspect of access to information. As my colleague has already mentioned, sometimes we are not well prepared, just like this. It's the same thing like having an interpreter. I think sometimes we are not well prepared to have a dedicated staff in an organization who will be able to handle probably interpretation. And I think it's up to all of us who are seated here to ensure that we factor in budgets for persons probably who do the interpretation. At least I see like the TV stations, they have already interpreters, sign language interpreters on TV. But I think we also need to see, I know the donor issues are quite hard, but I think we need specific persons and put in the budget for employing specific persons to be able to do translation within our offices. The same as we are putting ramps in place, is the same thing we need to also budget for such interpreters. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. My young sister, Dr. Kasule Chambade, do you want to say your last punch before I go into the mood for closing? Is my statement ready?
Thank you very much, moderator. I think there were all comments, and I would like also to thank my brother from UNFPA. Yes, we have a lot to do, and yes, we shall work together on this. Like I said, disability is one of the multi-sectoral issues. No one sector can solve the problems of disability. We all need to work together to address the issue of disability. And also, like the convention say, nothing for us without us. We need to understand the needs of persons with disability, especially the invisible ones. Maybe we cannot have all the solutions to disability, but if we work together, communities, families, parents, we can do something about it. If the hospital, for instance, does not have an interpreter, does the parent or the carer have somebody who can explain the issues of this person, of the persons with that disability when they come to seek health care? I think we all need to work together. There were comments. Communication is very key, and the needs vary. Those that we can see and those we can't see. but we need multi-sectoral action. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Kasule. Thank you very much, Mr. Peter Etabu. Thank you so much. Can I listen to the statement on video? Can you keep silent, please?
The Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, technical staff of the Ministry of Gender, Labor, Social Development, representatives from various ministries, departments, and agencies present here today, civil society organizations representing persons with disabilities in Uganda, persons with disability present here today, representatives from the UN agencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a pleasure for me to welcome you to the National Disability Symposium. I would like to particularly welcome those of you who have traveled a long way to be here today as part of this symposium. Since its inception in 1948, the UN has pursued the advancement of the right of all categories of persons, including persons with disabilities, in society development, in close collaboration with member states, civil society organizations, academic institutions, and the private sector at national, regional, and international levels. Remarkable progress has been made over the past decades in the UN's endeavor to advance the rights of persons with disabilities, including here in Uganda. The UN's commitment to promote the full and effective participation of persons with disabilities as agents of change and as beneficiaries of development has been translated into concrete actions. For example, in Uganda, there have been significant efforts in addressing discrimination against persons with disabilities through a number of strategies, including the Person with Disability Act 2020, the National Comprehensive Action Plan on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities 2020-2024, which all resonate with the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, that urge the removal of barriers and making concrete differences for and with persons with disabilities in order to be empowered, lead positive changes in their lives and communities. These will serve as useful tools for decision-making for ministries, departments, and agencies in their work to design evidence-based policies that have no one behind, especially persons with invisible disabilities. I want to particularly applaud the engagement of the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development with disability persons organizations in Uganda, which has been instrumental in advocating for equality and inclusion of invisible disabilities in their programming. Ladies and gentlemen, the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights sets out the right that every human being is entitled to, including the right to life, the right not to be discriminated against, the right to freedom from torture and other forms of inhuman or degrading treatment, the right to health, the right to education, the right to an adequate standard of living. Subsequently, instruments have laid emphasis on these fundamental human rights both at the international and regional levels, including the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities of 2006, the Sustainable Development Goals of 2015, which have emphasized inclusion through leaving no one behind in development, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights of 1981, and the Protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in Africa of 2018. The above legislative architecture is complemented by an institutional framework both at the UN and at the African Union's levels. The UN has established a special rapporteur on the rights of persons with disabilities in 2014 in order to advance the UN agenda on the promotion and protection of the rights of persons with disabilities. Equally, The African Commission on Human and People's Rights, which is part of the AU Human Rights Architecture, has since 2007 established a working group on older persons and people with disabilities. By reaching out to these institutions, you will be able to raise pertinent matters pertaining to persons with disabilities with them, and in turn, benefit from their experience and expertise and from best practices in place in other countries as regard the promotion and protection of the rights of persons with disabilities. As the UN Human Rights Office in Uganda, we have been working closely with the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, the Equal Opportunities Commission, the Parliament of Uganda, civil society organizations, and other partners to raise awareness on the challenges faced by persons with disabilities, including invisible disabilities, in order to ensure that everyone is able to live a dignified life and enjoy all human rights. I want to seize this opportunity to most sincerely thank all our partners for our collective efforts that have led to our successes in these areas, and encourage all of us to strive for more achievement. Ladies and gentlemen, the UN's work to promote human rights for all people has been reinforced by the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development that was adopted by world leaders in 2015. We all recall the role that Uganda has played in that achievement. Through this 2030 Agenda, government committed to lead action on a number of areas such as ending poverty, reducing inequalities, providing quality education, advancing gender equality, and building strong institutions, among others. As mentioned earlier on, the Sustainable Development Goals have one key overarching principle, which is to leave no one behind. We therefore all need to ensure that persons with invisible disabilities are not left behind. This symposium, therefore, is a great platform for deliberations to highlight key strategic issues to promote rights of persons with invisible disabilities that will inform our next steps on interventions in that respect. As the UN Human Rights Office in Uganda, we want to hear from you and further engage with all relevant stakeholders to ensure that all persons with disabilities fully enjoy all human rights and fundamental freedoms without any forms of discrimination. I would therefore like to encourage you to express your views, share challenges, and make suggestions with an open mind, honesty, and creativity. I would like to thank you once again for being here today and for the work you do with your organizations to advance the cause of persons with disabilities. Thank you for listening, and I wish you very fruitful deliberations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That has been Mr. Robert Kochani, the country representative, UN Human Rights in Uganda, with that powerful statement, but also with a promise to continue working with us to make a difference in the lives of the people with disabilities, including and especially those with invisible disabilities. We need to make those invisible disabilities visible so that they are addressed. What is invisible oftentimes is not addressed. So we need to make them visible by knowing them and being able to address them. Let me remind all of you, some of you who could have forgotten, that this month has had many parallel events that all address issues of people with disabilities. You perhaps know that last Friday, the minister launched the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence in a place called somewhere in the north, Oyam, in Oyam. And these will run up to 10th December which is International Human Rights Day. But also you could perhaps know that today is World AIDS Day. It's being marked and celebrated, and we are not oblivious of the fact that HIV is still here with us, although the prevalence has been somehow downgraded to about 5.4, it is still high. Any person who dies of HIV/AIDS is one person too many. And we need to continue being vigilant and ensuring that we are not devoured by HIV/AIDS. The minister is about to step in to come and close this meeting. I want to request site savers to prepare the children to get the dummy checks. World Vision, prepare the children to get the assistive devices. Site savers, come and talk about children to receive the dummy checks. Honorable Mpindi will meanwhile stand in for, okay. All right.
What she was going to Parliament, there was something on children. So when she passed there, she played. But dinner, I think, is waiting for her. The damage there now.
You see, Mpindi can do everything and we finish. I'm telling you.
Let me call dinner.
Call dinner. DJ, give us a treat. Just give me 2 minutes, I'm consulting on what to do.
Jerusalem, ikayalami, ngilondoloze, uhambenami, zungangishilana. Jerusalem, ikayalami, ngilondoloze, uhambenami, zungangishilana. I'm not perfect, I came from ruthless times as a juvenile. Look into my eyes, see pain and sacrifice. What's goes on my mind, struggling to survive.
Please hold on. Take your seats. Hold on. Can I now invite the minister is caught up in a thick jam, and we don't want to keep you waiting for long. Permit me invite the chairperson of the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, Mr. Yona Waswa, to come and make your statement.
thinker. Fresh. Songs of me.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremony, guest of honor, Minister for Disability Affairs, staff from Ministry of Gender, representatives from ministries, agencies, and development, civil society organizations present, organizations of disabled persons present, ladies and gentlemen observed. My name is Yona Waswa, and I'm the chairperson of National Council. Master of Ceremony, permit me request my colleagues, members of the council, raise up their hands. We'll especially recognize my staff headed by the executive secretary. Raise up your hand, wherever you are, my staff, for recognition. Ladies and gentlemen, as you may know, National Council for Persons with Disability is a government body that was established in 2003 by the National Council for Disability Act and re-established programming. Of course, finally, I will want to conclude by thanking the prayer president for accepting to have the Council for Persons with Disabilities as one of those councils that through which the services, the government services, reach to the grassroots people. We are also thankful for the well and comprehensive NRM manifesto that in a way is aligned to the Vision 2040 and the Sustainable Development Goals, Human Capital Development. All these programs are aimed at improving the quality of living for all persons, including persons with disabilities. I therefore conclude by calling upon all of you to take advantage of the existing government programs, make sure our people get involved so that they benefit. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I wish you a very, very, very safe journey home.
If you decide to clap, please clap. Thank you very much, Mr. Yona Waswa, the chairperson of the National Council for Persons with Disabilities in Uganda. Permit me now to invite Honorable Aruhaji Mpindi Bumali. Mpindi Bumali is going to put on a number of quotes. He's going to speak as the on behalf of NUDIP. He's also going to speak on behalf of members of parliament representing people with disabilities at the same time. And he's also going to help us hand over the assistive devices to people with disabilities, but also hand over the dummy checks to identified people. I've worked with Jimpindi for quite a time, and I have no doubt in his commitment to the disability movement in terms of making his contribution and contributing towards the socio-economic transformation of the disability movement and strengthening it further to be able to deliver on their promises. Haji Honorable Mpindi, karibu.
Thank you so much, my colleague, the Commissioner. Our guest of honor in absentia, development partners, the chairperson, Disability Council, members of NUDIP who are here, the academia, the media, and members of the disability fraternity, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mpindi Bumari. I'm the chairperson of the National Union of the Disabled Persons of Uganda, but also one of the members of parliament representing persons with disability. I bring you greetings from NUDIP and the entire disability fraternity. As NUDIP joins the rest of the world to commemorate the International Day of Persons with Disability, we take special recognition of the theme, "Not all disabilities are visible," a call for strong action. And out of this, it is estimated that 450 million people live with mental and neurological conditions. 69 million individuals are estimated to sustain traumatic. Our call for action to government, civil society, and the public. One, Honorable Minister, this comes to you. To pay attention to the most marginalized disability categories by designing specific programs that will empower them to effectively participate in the development processes, to establish their unique needs that may require special attention from service providers in respect to health, education, and social inclusion, among others. Through the Ministry of Gender, Labor, and Social Development, to design a social protection program that will address the disability-related costs, care, and support for the invisible disabilities, since the majority of them are not able to independently cope with the formal employment program. Honorable Minister, this very point, I presented it yesterday on the floor of Parliament, and the Parliament was in agreement. So it just needs a follow-up. The Ministry of Health, to subsidize the specialized health services, equipment, and medicine that are used to manage the specific disabilities under the marginalized and invisible categories. Such services should further be extended to rural health centers for the identification and intervention and easy access by persons with disability and their caregivers. Lastly, the general public, to avoid stigmatizing persons with invisible disability, parents and caretakers for persons with invisible and marginalized disability because of stigma, disempowering them to speak out and exhibit their potentials. Honorable Minister, I was speaking in the capacity of the chairperson of the National Union of the Disabled Persons of Uganda, but also my colleagues, the members of Parliament, who were here. Madam Honorable Minister, I was saying that the colleagues, members of Parliament, were all here, but because of different assignments, they decided to go. And they have asked me to present on their behalf these few points. One is that members of Parliament representing persons with disability are working together as a team, and therefore they advise the civil society, the DPOs here, to also work as a team so that we can easily achieve what we want to achieve. The other issue was that the minister, this morning when she was giving the opening remarks, mentioned that 10% funds for the parish model is going to be going to persons with disability. And therefore, we call upon you, colleagues in the disability fraternity, to mobilize our people there and access this fund. We fought hard to see that we have a certain percentage so that we are not left out. But not only receiving 10%, but we also fought for representation on the management committee of the parish model. So identify our people, and then they access that money because it belongs to all of us.